On this James the Bike Guy, we're taking a look at a brand new mountain bike from Salsa. This is the Salsa Blackthorn, a 160 millimeter front suspension and 140 millimeter rear suspension trail to enduro bike, and something I think is really interesting from Salsa. So the version we're checking out today is the Blackthorn Deore. So this is an entry-level spec aluminum frame, and we're going to go into some of the features and designs of this bike. We'll check out exactly what it weighs, and then of course we'll talk about how it should ride. So if this kind of video is interesting to you, be sure to hit that subscribe button. That way you can see more videos like this into the future. So this Salsa Blackthorn is a pretty cool looking bike. So as trail bikes become even more capable, this particular one is really taking it to the next level. So with 160 millimeters of travel up front, you're squeaking in on the enduro category. But then they run 140 millimeters of travel out back with these super short 32 millimeter chainstays. And what that does is that makes a bike that's going to feel pretty nimble in the trail, but have some super strong capabilities as you're descending. To bolster that, this tapered head tube that comes on the Salsa Blackthorn is a 64.6 degree head angle. And then the seat angle is 76.5. So you've got a super steep seat angle to the bike. You've got that slack head tube. And that's going to go together to be fun and nimble, but have tons of stability while descending. And of course, with this RockShox Super Deluxe Select Plus shock, you also have a flip chip. So you can adjust where the bottom of the shock is attaching to this Clevis to be able to set up slightly different geometry, raise or lower that bottom bracket by 4 millimeters and get it dialed in. Now I should mention this shock is a 210 by 52.5 millimeter shock. And one thing that's really neat about this bike is you can convert this to additional travel. So Salsa has another bike called the Cassidy, which is a 180 millimeter front travel bike with a 165 millimeter travel rear. And they both run the exact same front triangle. So that means with some replacement parts to the linkage in the back that Salsa sells and a new shock, you can upgrade this to 165 millimeter travel super easy in the back end. And then of course, add the additional travel to the fork if you so need. Now this frame is going to be all internal cable routing. You can see everything is run internal. You've got stealth routing for that 30.9 dropper seat post. And then you'll also notice that the welds on the bike, in my opinion, look really nice. So the frame is made out of a 6061 T6 aluminum. It's going to have things like top tube mounts. You've got a triplicate down tube mount for your water bottle. And even on this size small frame, you can run up to a 26 ounce water bottle. But there's a few other features that I think are pretty neat on the frame, such as right here, you've got a mount to be able to run your toolkit. So with a Velcro strap, you could add a tube, multi-tool, that sort of thing in place. And then they also put into the steer tube a little tool that is both your top cap as well as a tool to be able to tighten up the split pivot suspension in the rear. So that guy can come right out of the top tube, and that can tighten up or loosen your concentric bearings around the split pivot setup if you needed to do trail side maintenance. Now we should talk about the split pivot suspension a little bit. So this is a linkage driven suspension with a concentric bearing that's right here on the back end. So that means your chainstay and your seat stay come together with one bearing for the axle. So out back here is Super Boost 157, and with that concentric bearing, it's going to help eliminate any anti-rise issues with braking, so you're going to have nice smooth braking on the bike. It's also going to allow the suspension to be real active while pedaling. So that's going to make the bike super confident descending. It's going to have a little bit of movement as you're pedaling as you go through, but it's going to make for a nice leverage curve going to that shock. Now, along with that suspension, you're going to have an ISCG 05 tabs to be able to run a chain guide or chain guard around the 73 millimeter threaded bottom bracket. And then this bike, being the Deore model, is going to be set up with the Shimano Deore 12-speed drivetrain. So this is the new 12-speed drivetrain that runs a 10 to 51 tooth cassette on the back. And then up front, as you go to this 1x crankset, you'll see this is going to have a 32 tooth narrow wide chainring direct mount onto the Deore crankset. Moving to the front of the bike, we should check out this RockShox 35. So the RockShox 35 we have here is the gold version, which means this is going to have adjustable damping with indents for each position from all the way open to locked out. On the same side of the fork, you're going to have rebound down on the bottom. It's going to be through axle boost 15 by 110 up front. And this has 35 millimeter stanchions to go along with 160 millimeters of travel. Of course, it is air adjustable, so you can add or remove air to get this dialed in exactly the way that you'd want it to ride. To slow the bike down, you've got these Shimano Deore 4-piston calipers. So it's a nice lever up top. You've got that 4-piston caliper that's going to run a 203 millimeter rotor up front and then a 180 millimeter rotor out back. For a wheel set, this is where we're going to get some WTB ST I-30 rims. So this is a 30 millimeter internal width rim. It's tubeless ready with 32 spokes, and it's being wrapped in the Maxxis Assegai 29 by 2.5 WT or wide trail front tire, and then the new Dissector 29 by 2.6 rear tire. That rear tire is going to be a great directional tread, get you going, and then that meaty Assegai up front to keep it all in control. Now I should talk about the tire size here as well. So this is pretty interesting. So the bike is able to run up to a 29 by 2.6 tire. And then you can also set this up plus size, running a 27.5 by 2.8 to a 27.5 by 3.0. So a super wide range of tires and wheels that you can run on it. Of course, for a cockpit, this is being set up with a 35 millimeter Salsa cockpit. So you've got the Salsa stem. You also have the super wide Salsa handlebar with a WTB Volt 35 saddle with a Trans-X dropper seat post. Now in the size small, we've got 125 millimeters of travel. The medium is 150, large is 170, and an extra large is going to have 200 millimeters of drop travel on that dropper. One thing that I really like about this bike that you don't often see is that it's coming with a super nice dropper lever. So this is coming with the Shimano dropper lever, which is a lot better than the cheapo plastic levers that you often get on a complete built bike. So I'm super happy to see that on this rig. So now that we've talked about some of the features and designs of this Salsa Blackthorn Deore, let's go ahead and find out what this bicycle weighs. And the actual weight for the Salsa Blackthorn Deore comes in at 34.55 pounds. Well, thanks so much for watching this video on the Salsa Blackthorn Deore. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to hit the subscribe button, as well as go ahead and leave a thumbs up. It lets me know you enjoyed the video.